All right, Jonathan Hunt, thank you very much, my friend. The president has already responded to these developments, part of this bull spray that will be coming along shortly, that the perpetrators should be apprehended as soon as possible, that the bombings in Texas are terrible, carried out by sick people. And again, as I said, calls for finding these perpetrators as soon as possible. The former FBI agent Terry Turchie, by the way, it was Terry who led the task force that ultimately caught the Unabomber Ted Kaczynski some years back. You know, Terry, in the case of this San Antonio incident, that was interesting to a lot of authorities because it was supposedly en route to Austin when it exploded. This nails and shrapnel test of that location blew up there. So it seemed that all these destinations were to the Austin area. What do you make of that? Well,
that's very important because it may show the familiarity and the comfort level that the bomber has with Austin. It'd only be theory, but he may very well live in that area or somewhere along that I-35 corridor where a lot of these packages ended up on people's porches. But the developments today, Neil, were very significant in that when you find, and if they actually end up connecting it to the other bombs, if you find a live bomb that you can take out and render safe, then that's a big step because forensically, when you have a bomb intact, you may very well find everything from fingerprints to any other type of evidence, for example, DNA. So that's a big development if it turns out to be connected. The tripwire bomb that was mentioned earlier really kind of hits home on why this is so vital to get solved and solved quickly. This killer is indiscriminate. He really doesn't care if someone comes along pushing a stroller with a baby in it or if it's two kids going to school. It doesn't matter to him. He just wants to kill. So the developments today are positive in the sense that they're going to give a quantum leap to the investigators that are pouring over that area now and looking to bring all this together and find this person.
Now, you dealt with the whole Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber situation, and I always seem to remember, you know it obviously far better than I, that he would try to change his tactics based on the reports he was hearing from authorities and what he might have been thinking. And I'm wondering if you get a sense here that this could be the case as well. You mentioned in the tripwire case, anyone could have and indeed did bump into that, setting it off regardless of their race, when some of the first hits were presumably thought to have been targeted at minorities, an African-American, an Hispanic. Now that does not appear to be the case. Or is he or she, whoever is behind this, just sort of playing with us?
We always were very careful in Unabomber to stay away from a lot of theories and try and keep things fact, fiction, and theory separate. And we usually based our investigative projects around the idea that we were going to go down that road of facts. And I think that's what they're definitely doing in Austin, which is a very good step. The first set of facts they have all pertains to forensics. And in early bombs, that's very critical, very important, because that's all they do have. They may have more communicating from him later, but right now he communicates with his bombs. He learned that from probably doing a little bit of study of people like Theodore Kaczynski or Eric Robert Rudolph or the handful of the bombers we've had to deal with over the decades. So I think the person knows what they're doing. I think, in fact, they probably built these bombs and then decided after they got them built on their means of delivery and where they would put them and all of this. Keep in mind, this person has probably surveilled some of these locations, if not all of them, in person. The bomber probably has experimented with these bombs out in the Texas countryside, whether it's the hill country around San Antonio or somewhere in between. So anything that people have thought about or maybe remember from loud noises at night or explosives or anything like that, they should just call and let the police know, because those are the kind of things we saw before. Eric Rudolph, the Olympic bomber, experimented with his bombs in the mountains of North Carolina. Theodore Kaczynski experimented with every one of his bombs and his new bombs as he was developing different and more powerful bombs in the mountains of Montana.
But Kaczynski targeted specific individuals, right? I mean, do you have any sense right now that whoever is behind this is doing the same?
That's a good question. They were specific individuals, Neil, but yet they were randomly selected because they represented something in his mind. So in some instances, things like return addresses on the mailed part of his devices were all fictitious. So we don't know a lot about that right now, and we don't have mailing addresses because these were placed. But I think this bomber is pretty random in his selections. I think that what is important is that he has a comfort level in the areas that he's working. Kaczynski, for example, didn't put just one. He used University of California's Corey Hall in 1982 and again in 1985 to place packages. Now think about a college with the narrow corridors and everything that you wander through. He was comfortable with that because we find out, of course, later that he worked right around the corner. He was a college professor. So this person appears to be pretty comfortable, as the manner in which you started this interview, in this area that he is kind of working in and around Austin, going into neighborhoods. Think about it, going into a residential neighborhood, going up on someone's porch and putting a package, and you know it's got a bomb in it, and then turning around and walking away. I mean, that really takes a different kind of mindset when you can do that. So I think we're going to find a lot out as these new developments get worked and as more interviews are done. But I think we're going to find he's pretty darn comfortable with Austin and in the areas that he's been working.